I'm Kathy Hester and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are going to make a celery root cauliflower soup. And celery root is sometimes called celeriac. And either way, it's kind of cool. If you've been watching some of the shorts that I've been doing last week and this week, you probably already saw celery root. And I'm just kind of waiting for this to kind of amplify out. So those of you who are watching the replay, thank you very much. Those of you that are coming in, thank you as well. Let me make sure one thing. Okay, great. Yay! So I haven't been on in a while, but here I am. It's February. Let's get going, right? So I am posting today later a little like a short quickie. So the short videos I've been posting are just like 30 seconds or 15 seconds. And I'll talk a little more about that, and we'll talk about preparing some of this. But since it takes a while for the Instant Pot to come up to pressure, I'm going to go ahead and just put everything together, and then we're going to go from there, if that makes sense. So this recipe is really simple, and it's from the Vegan Slow Cooker, the revised edition book. And we'll talk about those a little bit too. Yay, somebody's here, so now I know. And if you are watching on Facebook, I only see Facebook user as your name. So if you would just say, put it in parentheses or something so I know who you are, I will address you personally because I'm so glad you're here. So again, what we're doing today is we're making a celery root cauliflower soup that's super easy. And I'm going to make one adjustment and we'll talk about a few other things. Hey, Amber, it's awesome to see you here. And so we're going to do about equal parts of celery root and cauliflower that I've cut up into small florets. And this is such a basic, easy soup. Let me go ahead and it's interesting because my little thing isn't telling me that anybody is watching, but I see that you are. Hi, Cheryl and Susan. And oh, Vanetta is here. Awesome. It's so good to see all of you guys here. So I apologize that I felt like I was talking to no one because I was probably talking to you, and I appreciate it. So again, these short videos that I've been doing, I have one that I put up yesterday, like, what is this weird vegetable? And it's celery root, sometimes known as celeriac. And that's what we're going to make the basis of our soup today. Oh, yay. Hey, Gina. I wonder if Apple's going to come by too. Hi, Patricia and Joanne. And Joanne says, those quickies are so quick I can hardly type hi. I know. So I am going to be putting up a short, oh, sorry, it doesn't like it when I move things up. So I need to just cut that out. This is my celery root. It was the one that I showed you. So it was probably about that big. So it was a large celery root. This is about 4 cups. I'm going to pop this in the Instant Pot. We're going to make this soup in the Instant Pot. Then I have about 3 cups again. I'm still trying to show you closer, and I do not know. And Facebook, if you're watching this from Facebook, if you could just tell me your name too so I can be personally saying hello to you. We're going to have lots of time to talk while this comes up to pressure. So about 3 cups. You could be anywhere from 3 to 4 cups. And this, I'm going to be writing up this recipe. But honestly, it's just one of those things. A celery root that you have and probably half of a large head of cauliflower. You'd have to have if you have a tiny head of cauliflower, that might be enough too. So I would want to get about 7 to 8 cups, 6 to 8 cups of veggies in here because that's going to be our real main thing. If you go less, we may use less water. We're also going to use that dry bullion that I made in that super short video that I know I shared on Facebook as well. I don't think I shared the what is this vegetable on Facebook. I will try to do that today when I share, hey, go look at this about how to break it down too. Okay, so let's get back in here. And in case any of you didn't know, I'm still seeing people amazed by this. These little guys on the side hold your lid for you. which doesn't really matter right now, though it's nice not to have to try and fumble for it later. I'm going to put a lot of garlic into this, in fact. These were really giant cloves of garlic, and I'm probably not going to put all of it in. I'm going to put probably about a good tablespoon, 3 teaspoons to a tablespoon of it. You could use already minced up garlic. If you don't have garlic on hand, you could use about a teaspoon of garlic powder or granulated garlic. Now, the one change in my normal recipe, I usually use lemon peel, but my lemon looks awful. So I'm going to try it with lime peel. So I'm going to use this. I want to not get the white pith on here as much as possible. So I want this to be as thin as, that's trying too hard. Okay, perhaps if I do it this way. So I just want to kind of get here. And if I get some white pith on there, that's okay. I can get it off. But see, that's about what we're looking for. And let's see if you can see it there. And if I can get a larger piece, that would be even better. Because if you puree it in, it's not the worst thing that can happen, but it will be a little extra citrusy. So see how that one has a little bit of the white pith in there? And I'm not super thrilled about that, but honestly, the world will not end. It's not super thick still. See how it's still pretty thin? But then I can take a knife and try and scrape some of that off. See how that works? You just don't want to cut down, you want to cut ahead. So you want kind of a thin, sharp-ish knife when you're doing this part. And honestly, if we put the other part in, it's just, like I said, it's not the end of the world. We're going to put this in here. This is 1 tablespoon of herbes de Provence. And I couldn't find the mixture that this one is that I got, but it's usually thyme, basil, rosemary, tarragon, savory, and lavender. So it's a lot of different flavors that's already in one blend. I'm going to put about 3 cups of water in. Usually I put 4, but we can always add this extra water later on. Just go ahead and I just want it just covered. Okay. And we can either put in the regular bullion that I make that you can get on plantbasedinstantpot.com or on healthyslowcooking.com, and we'll talk about this because we're going to have some cooking time. But I'm going to use the dry bullion, and I'm using about 4 tablespoons, which is about 1/4 cup. And we could put it in right now, or we could add it in at the end and keep the nutritional yeast kind of nutritional aspect intact. So sometimes when if you're cooking nutritional yeast, actually let's just cook this, then we'll talk about nutritional yeast. I am going to save mine for the blending process. You can do whatever you want because it's your soup. So I'm going to cook this for about 8 minutes. And this is the Duo Crisp Plus air fryer. So remember, it has a start button. So a lot of the newer versions have start buttons. So if you don't hit start, nothing's going to happen. Okay, we'll set this across over here for a minute and we will chat. And I will answer your questions and we'll talk about some stuff because it's day 2 of February. It's my first live of February. So again, welcome to you, mysterious people who no longer show up on my account. And I only did a couple of lives in January. So I'm going to be trying to get into a routine and do 1, 2, 3 lives a week. And there's some other platforms I'm looking at exploring, hopefully with you. So let me come back here and then we will talk nutritional yeast after this. Okay. And Joanne says her celery roots are smaller than the one I showed, but have all the roots trimmed off. And this is when I had 2 celery roots, but I used one in our casserole class last Saturday. And so I only had that one. So today you will get a video on, if you aren't already following me on Instagram, I'm Kathy Hester Cooks. And you can just look up Kathy Hester on YouTube and find me there. That's where those shorts are mainly going to go. And I am on TikTok if you look up Kathy Hester. So I'm trying all the vertical video spots out. I would love it if you would want to follow me on any and all of those platforms. So then you'll see more of what that looks like. I've had celery roots be smaller, and the roots are a lot of it. So I've also had some that looked really big, and a lot of that root system, you're cutting off right where it starts to become solid. So you lose a lot of that. So most places, you're buying celery root by the pound. And I don't like that. I went to Whole Foods and got a celery root a few years ago, and it was $8 for a celery root because they're hefty little things. Now, I was able to go to Kroger's and buy them by the piece. Now I usually get them in Misfit Market or another like vegetable delivery service, and they're usually priced per piece. I find if you can find them priced per piece, it's much more economic. However, if you're like Joanne and you're finding one with the roots cut off, that helps you out a lot because you're going to come home and cut those off. Now, granted, it looks like a mandrake from Harry Potter, which, you know, appeals to me. But also know that it is not a mandrake root because mandrake roots are poisonous. Okay, so a celery root is edible, mandrake root is not, but it would make a really awesome Harry Potter party, like, you know, favor. You could put some little googly eyes on there and just keep going with it. Someone said if all that garlic went in, it would have, if it was my choice, absolutely. I have to temper it a little bit for Cheryl. But that's the thing, and that's why I do these lives, is because here's the thing. I'm going to put out a recipe. It's going to say use this many cups of celery root and this many cups of cauliflower. And depending on what's in my personal refrigerator at the time, that could change. And I want you to know that you have that freedom. You want more garlic? Put more garlic. Maybe you wish there were sauteed onions in there. You could take probably half an onion, a whole onion, up to you. You wouldn't have to mince it because we're going to puree all this. Saute it first. It also would help with, I'm like, come on, little Instant Pot. It would help it come up to pressure a little faster. I know we're going to have a long time because it's cold. I have a sweater on, so it's been in the 30s for the past, I don't know, I don't think it's been a whole week, but it feels like it's been a whole week. But absolutely, and let's say you hate herb de Provence. You could go ahead and just put in like thyme, basil, rosemary. If you wanted to put in some tarragon, great. If you hate tarragon, leave it out. If you hate rosemary, leave it out. You could make this into a curried creamy soup and use garam masala instead of that. So whatever recipe that is put in front of you, A, I want you to feel like you can adapt it to your own personal tastes. And B, that you can say, well, I don't have herbs de Provence. I don't have lavender. Okay, great. What could I do? You could use Italian spices. I like a little Italian spice blend. We could do so many different things with it. And you can do so many different things with it. And Cindy from San Marcos, Texas is here, and Gary Miles. And Jessica says she prefers better than bullion. It's like a demi-glaze. And I like better than bullion, flavor-wise, for sure. And at least they used to have a variety of vegan options as far as like a beefless broth, a chickenless broth, and a vegetable bullion. There are two things I don't like about it. One is it's expensive. It's really expensive. And so when I make my wet bouillon that I put in the freezer, it's an onion, a couple of carrots, some celery, and some thyme. I think that's all the main ingredients. You can obviously change it and put rosemary in or mushrooms in or other things that you want, but you're not going to, it's not like broth. You're not going to put the onion skins in there because we're going to puree up the stuff and make it into bouillon, so we're eating all of it. So I make a batch of that. If I use all organic vegetables and stuff, maybe it costs $3 and it lasts me for a month or more. And I put after I make it, I put it in ice cube trays that are about 2 tablespoons each, an average ice cube tray. Then I take those cubes out and I put them in a Ziploc bag and just pull out the ones I want to throw in there. So that's how I do it with my wet bouillon. And it doesn't have any oil or salt in there. I know a lot of people are looking to avoid salt. If that's not you, you can put salt in my bouillon too if you want to. I tend to like to not do that with spice blends or bouillon because I want to get the flavor where I want, then get the salt where I want. So and what I find out is with the bouillons is the salt's here. So as I add it, the salt is reached, and then I can't keep adding that other really good, yummy, umami flavors. And so again, there's nothing wrong with using the bouillon that you like. And let's see, and Jessica, if that's the one you prefer, then absolutely stick with it. I know it has a few ingredients that some of my readers are avoiding. And so I like to have the options. And I will tell you this too, I have some Better Than bouillon as a backup in my pantry too. I just don't like to use it all the time. And originally I created my wet bouillon recipe because when I was developing my first book, I would have spent hundreds of dollars in Better Than bouillon, and I didn't get that much money to write my first book as an advance, so that wasn't going to work. And then this dry bouillon is what you would get instead of bouillon cubes, and that recipe is going to go up in the blog soon as well. Oh, look, a magic number has appeared. Now I know that you are here. You are counted. But this dry bouillon is really easy, and so I actually used it in a class because we were rearranging things and stuff was up in front of the freezer where I keep my bouillon cubes. So it's just some seasonings and some nutritional yeast and things like that. So you can make variations of this, and in fact, I've got an idea in the back of my head about some stuff I want to develop based on this that hopefully I'll be bringing to you guys soon. But that's the story behind the bouillons. And Joanne says, Trader Joe's Herb de Provence blend is thyme, marjoram, savory, rosemary, basil, sage. And most of them do have lavender in them. And I'm using Spice Walla. I cannot find my container anywhere. And on Amazon, they don't have their Herbs de Provence. But actually, I can show you. Even though I usually, if I buy a blend, it ends up going into kind of my regular jars. But let's see if you can see this a little bit. And the lavender is not strong in this at all, okay? Can you guys see the little bursts of lavender buds there? Let's see if I do that. And it smells so good. It's like there's just a tiny amount of lavender that gives it just almost like a little bit of sweet. And I love me some lavender in my food. So I am that floral flavor lover, which you may not be. But I can give Herbs de Provence to someone who doesn't really like lavender and stuff, but it gets in the mix. It doesn't come out like lavender soup, I promise you. Someone's saying, why is this button already up? Well, it's not. In this model of Instant Pot, it comes above instead of just being level like this. So the different models of Instant Pots, like the old ones, like the Duos, it's like concave, and when it comes up even. Then I have another one when it comes up, it has a red. There's all different ones. So that would be why. Oh, Gina, thank you so much. She said, I spoiled you guys in December when I went live every day. And I do want to come back and do this, and because I miss you guys, honestly. And I'm trying to kind of get some new interesting things going on, and I really haven't done as much recipe development as I'd like to, because that's my favorite part of my job. And Gary says, this is great. I will continue to watch your lives more often. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. Okay, and this is Vanita. This is the perfect question, so thank you for that. Celery root. Why? And let's talk about celery root for a hot minute. I know we never got to nutritional yeast. I suspect, seeing that this is just starting to get warm, we got plenty of time. So celery root. So it's not the root of the celery plant that we get, that big stalks of celery, though it's related, okay? Now, what it is it has a very light, mild celery flavor. I find the celery flavor of celery root slightly more mild and pleasing, though I love me a celery soup. So this is splitting hairs, like true hairs. And I think it's just kind of nice. Now, I will also say this, which I have not yet. If you don't have a celery root in your fridge right now, you want to make the soup, you've got a head of celery, then go and chop up about 3 to 4 cups. Put it on in here. It's not going to thicken up the soup as much as a root vegetable is going to, so you might want to just go ahead and toss in maybe 2 tablespoons of rolled oats if you don't do nuts, or 2 tablespoons of cashews if you do nuts. That'll just make it a little thicker and creamier. I don't think you guys can. The slight whistle of an Instant Pot. Oh, not yet. Oh, just not so close. And actually, let me move these guys a little bit closer in here. Alrighty, let's see what else got. Joanne, that's what I was wondering too. I thought Brandy might be there because Brandy loves her garlic, and she doubles garlic on everything she makes that I make. And you know what? I love her for that. There we go. So, and I think it was Facebook user person who said that. Do you see how now it's above? Let's see if you can see it real easy. So see how that's about there? See how it came up out of its little hidey hole? And that's why it looked. You have a model that comes even, and this one comes up a little bit more. Okay, back to celery root. Aw, that's so sweet, Joanne. I'm glad you guys felt spoiled. I was worried that you guys were going to feel like, is she going to go on again today? Oh, and Gary just followed me on Instagram. Thank you. You know the secret. So on actually, it's on TikTok that I was able to make it a quiz if you knew what the celery root or not is. So if you go there and look up Kathy Hester, you should find me. And you know the answer before I go and put anything else up, because I like you guys the best. Oh, and Amber said she loved the spice herb suggestions. Thank you, Amber. And I think it was Gina that wanted more garlic. And garlic you should have if you want it. And Gary saying, am I related to the Hesters of Trinity County? I do not think so. I'm in the Hesters of North Carolina. But that is about all I know. Okay, and so we've got 8 minutes. And so we've got plenty of time. And then someone said, that's me, no sofas. And for those of you who don't know what that is, so that relates to Chef AJ's weight loss diet. So it's no sugar, oil, salt, flour, alcohol, right? Sofas. Yeah, that's right. That was all of them. I wanted to add another one. And so one of the things I did too, and coming up soon, is a really yummy, creamy oat sauce and cheese that I created in the casserole class. So sometimes in the classes, I'll make up new recipes while we're doing things because it's fun for all of us. And if you're interested in taking a class with me, you can still go get old classes. I haven't listed the February classes yet. I gave myself till the end of this week, so they will be up. But you can go to kathyhester.podia, Podia.com, and you can either join Kathy's Cooking Club, which is $50 a month. You get 2 classes a month for that. I do 2 new classes every month, and you get to see the old classes too, for as long as you're a member. And that could change some because I think it's getting a little bloated with all the old classes, but we'll see about that. You definitely will get 2 classes a month, or you can buy a single class for $35 a month. It's super similar to what I do here on my lives, except they're like really long. No, we do 3 to 5 recipes, so you learn a lot. It's pretty intensive. And Susan said, and hey Susan, I'm probably not going to be able to find celery root. You can make the soup using a rutabaga or a turnip. You could use it. You could make it with potatoes. It's just I'm more likely to mash it than to puree it because the potatoes can get a little gummy. But yeah, those would work just fine. And Joanne's saying can I move this where you can? Okay, you do get to see all that. The lavender isn't strong in the Trader Joe's blend either, but I've had other blends with way too much lavender. That would not be me, but I could see that happening, and I see in the future perhaps us making herbs de Provence together. So that way you can control it. So one of the reasons, again, I like to make all those spice blends is I can make it suit me. I like to give you the recipes so you can make it where it suits you. Right? Oh, and thank you. Oh, that's so sweet. You guys are just making my day better. And Verlin, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I brought my herbs de Provence from TJ Maxx. Yeah, I buy a lot of things from TJ Maxx. I've gotten some interesting vegan sauces. I think something aardvark is a vegan sauce, and it was like bacon, sriracha, but it was all vegan. It was delicious. So sometimes I get some good kitchen stuff there too, but I definitely look for spices, sauces. Sometimes I get chia seeds, flax seeds. Sometimes they're less expensive, sometimes they're not. But TJ Maxx and Home Goods are owned by the same people, and that works out really well. So I agree wholeheartedly with that. Oh, okay, and Joanne has a really good question. You know, okay, I'm gonna switch to Joanne's second question and go back through it. How come Gary Miles' name is coming up from Facebook? He must have clicked the thing at some point that says show your name. Because you know, Joanne, you've done that before, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But you know, Facebook and Ecamm are always doing different things. That was a long answer for I don't know why, but you know, hey. And how about using oats and cashews for body if you just use celery? Absolutely. So I love to make a celery soup. So let's talk about a different soup we could make, basically doing the same thing. So I would maybe add celery. I love celery and carrots in a pureed soup. And also you could put parsnips in this soup if you wanted to, because we're trying to keep it winter white. It was hard. I wanted to throw a carrot in here, I tell you. And then it was going to be orange, and then there was going to be too many questions. So I caved to the pressure. But I love making one with like, you could even use like turnip, rutabaga, celery, carrot. I'm sure you could use parsnip, but I was doing celery and potato some. And when I do that, sometimes I will keep the potatoes at the bottom and put a steamer for the celery to go on in the Instant Pot to layer it. So I can take the celery out, put it in the blender, pour some of the liquid, puree that, mash the potatoes, then pour the pureed in, and let it be kind of like a chunky-ish potato soup or just a lumpy potato soup, not quite as creamy. You could keep mashing the potato as much as you wanted, or if you have the amount of liquid that you know you're going to use in the soup, when you're cooking it, you could cut the potato very small and it will start to really kind of dissolve almost on its own. So absolutely celery. And Cheryl was shocked. So Cheryl hates celery. And last year I started making celery soups in my my hot blender, the one that heats up, not like the Vitamix run until it gets warm. And so I was making all kinds of things, just throwing in chopped celery because I had a lot of chopped celery in my CSAs and stuff last year. And she was like, this is phenomenal. What is this? It adds this beautiful, beautiful flavor. And celery root does as well. And here's the thing. You probably either have a celery root and you've seen it at the stores or you haven't. So you're not going to miss out if you use celery in place of celery root. So that's what I say. Ooh, that is, Amber saying, any suggestions for a water ratio for lemon rice? And when you're saying lemon rice, I'm assuming you're talking about the Indian dish. So are you talking basmati rice? Could you, and is it brown basmati rice or regular basmati rice? So, Amber, I see that you see that. And if you tell me what kind of rice, that will help a little bit. And Joanne says she does 1-to-1. I do it a little different. And yeah, and it is the cook time that matters. And it can also be the release time. So sometimes you tend to use Jill Newsonow, the Veggie Queen. I don't know if you know her, but she has a lovely Instant Pot book as well. But she uses like 1 cup of rice and 1 1/4 cup of water up to a point. So if she's cooking 3 cups of rice, she doesn't use 3 3/4. She probably uses like 3 1/2. So you kind of go a little bit. And it depends too with using that extra water or not. Are you doing a quick pressure release as soon as it comes off? Or are you doing like a 15-minute or natural pressure release? And Joanne, I'm interested to what you do. Typically, what I've seen, if you do 1-to-1 ratio, you're usually having 15 minutes or more of natural pressure release time to let it kind of soak in and cook and not lose that extra water through the steam. So to me, that's the difference of doing it one way versus the other. So if you're, because as we're going to see here, and white or brown. Okay, and so Amber's saying it is basmati and white or brown. I thought so when you said lemon rice. And I'm going to let this sit just a minute, so maybe it won't take us so long to release the pressure. She said optimistically, not very optimistically. And Joanne says she does a 15-minute natural pressure release, and that makes sense. So if you're doing with either one, so and Amber, well, I love Indian food, Amber. So that's my, like, the one thing I miss most about quarantine is because we have some great vegetarian Indian restaurants that used to have buffets that we would go, so I could try things every time I would go, I'd find at least 2 things I'd never tried before, so I could like add those to my taste repertoire, and I really miss that. But I make a lot of dosas. So that seems to help. And you're doing natural release. So I would then do 1-to-1. And here's the thing, if you feel like it's a little dry for you, then maybe go up a little bit. But like when we can just do this now to keep it a little bit. So, and let me show you, it's okay, nothing's blowing up, I just bumped it. So I want to show you, there we go. So this is the top part of this Duo Crisp air fryer. So they're all a little different. So this one has a button you push that's not near this. So it doesn't have the thing that you hit like that. And if I hit this and put it over to the side, it would hold it and just let the steam keep coming out. I tend to just push it the same way as before when it had that little thing coming off. I go, right? So you're going to see that a little bit, and I'm going to move it out from under my camera a little. So see how I can let that go? But do you see that? Can you see the steam? Yeah, you can see the steam a little bit. There you go. You can see the steam now, right? So steam is water and liquid. So what's happening, and it's okay with this, but like with rice, if we needed that extra liquid and now it's going away, that's what can make your rice too dry. If you're doing a one-to-one and you don't leave that natural pressure release. Also during a natural pressure release, which is the opposite of what this is a manual pressure release. I am making it happen versus nature is slowly just chilling out and releasing the pressure. A natural pressure release also is still all in here with a higher heat. Oh gosh, y'all, that smells good. It smells really good. It also, just the nature of it. So let's say you cook something in the oven, you turn off the oven and you leave it there. You don't expect it to have stopped cooking when you turned off the oven, right? Same thing with this. Just because the cook time is gone doesn't mean magically there's no more temperature or pressure in there, right? We know there's pressure. It's continuing to cook a little bit. And so sometimes if you do something a natural pressure release versus a manual pressure release on the recipe, so let's say it says natural pressure release and you're like, I am not up for that. I cannot wait for my dinner that long. You might want to go ahead and add, sometimes I do anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes of extra cooking time, depending on what it is. So for instance, if I'm cooking cauliflower, I'm probably not going to add any extra cooking time if it said that, because it's going to be soft enough for me, and I prefer to slightly undercook my cauliflower. But just know that you've got this continuum going on, and that's why people get mad when they first get their Instant Pot and they do a recipe and it doesn't work exactly the way it's supposed to. And remember this too, when we're doing cauliflower or something like that, how big or small you cut the pieces can change the cooking time as well. And that's why I actually cut up the celery root, the celeriac, a little bit smaller, because I wanted to make sure it was thoroughly cooked while the cauliflower wasn't going to be so cooked it gets that yucky smell. Because if you cook cauliflower too long, the cells burst, and that causes it to get that unpleasant smell from our childhood. Okay, and let's see what we got. Okay, and Janet actually, going back to the rice, she does an extra 1/4 cup, so 1 cup of rice, 1 1/4 cup of water, and with the 15-minute natural pressure release. And here's the thing, there's a lot of ways to do things. And it's okay. Because here's the thing, too, you may like your rice cooked a little bit more or a little bit less than I do. And that's going to be a difference, too. Let's look at this. It's going to look pretty much like you thought it was going to. A bunch of vegetables and some broth. That smells so good. Okay, so I'm going to be responsible and use tongs to take out this piece of lime. And usually I go ahead and I put some, what am I trying to say? Some lemon juice in here. So I might end up putting a little drizzle of balsamic instead, is what I'm thinking of. So I'm going to take this out of the holder. You could use an immersion blender, and actually let's start with an immersion blender. Let's see how I'm feeling. Because if I was using cashews in here, I will tell you right now, I know lots of you use an immersion blender with cashews and you're perfectly happy. I am not. If I'm using cashews or oats, I want it to go into the big blender and I want it to get creamy, creamy smooth, because I don't have that kind of patience. It's my fault. However, Here, we'll try it with the immersion blender because it is the more responsible thing to do with a batch of hot soup instead of pouring it into something. Yeah, see, this is too much work for me. I'm already annoyed by it. And again, let me tell you that that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means I don't have the patience for that, and I like my soups super duper 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 creamy. And I left out a cup of water with this just in case it's not as thick as I'd like it to be. Okay. So I'm going to carefully pour this. And this likes to play a sad song. It goes, "Where is the pot?" Okay. See, pour hot away from you, so if it splashes, it doesn't splash on you. That was my PSA for this live. Okay, and I'm going to push that away because there may be a case that I want to put it back in the Instant Pot. Since the pot isn't there, I don't want to pour it into there. When I'm storing my Instant Pot, I store it under the counter so I can't pour anything at it. And that's one way that you can not ruin your Instant Pot. Okay, so let's just turn on the Vitamix. Okay. See, to me, that's just so much easier. I'm going to put this down here so you can kind of see it, and then I'm going to get back to some more questions that I'm seeing. And this I haven't put any of the flavor elements, so I'm putting about a quarter teaspoon. Goodness gracious, a quarter cup of the dry bullion. Dry bullion. I'm also going to put a little bit of salt. I'm probably going to put about a half a teaspoon. And you could put some white pepper on there if you wanted to, if you want to keep it a white soup. If you don't care, like me, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Shh. I'm going to put black pepper in. So I never have white pepper, and it's not important to me. I don't feel like the taste is that different. Maybe it's just me. So we're going to blend this up. And because of the amount of nutritional yeast, it is going to change the color a little bit too. Ooh, haha. I forgot I put turmeric in my bouillon. We got us a yellow soup. I could have put a carrot in there. Ah, people, I should have used the regular bouillon cubes, but it's still going to be delicious. But that's why it's yellow. It's because I put turmeric in it. Ooh, it's really good though. And this is about the thickness I was looking for. See that? So it's a thick, creamy bisque. Here's the thing. If you wanted to thin it out, we can add some more water or broth if you're using broth instead. And I'm sorry I made this yellow for you. I'm kind of embarrassed, but not really, because it's still a delicious soup. It's just not wintry white. I did not call it wintry white celery root cauliflower soup, so I think I can come to terms with this. So, if this was too thin, I would then pour it back into the Instant Pot, put it on saute on high, and one thing I've been doing lately is, some pot lids will fit on top. I need to add this somewhere too, because I use the Instant Pot and slow cooker and all that so often, when I'm making pasta, I put this on top of the pot so it doesn't boil over. This also fits on top of the Instant Pot. So I put it on here so that what happens a lot of times if you're trying to thicken something up, and you've got it on high, it starts sending out little and you get a little drops of soup everywhere. This will prevent that from happening. And you can even kind of see that it fits right over there. It seals itself around the edges, and that's been really awesome. I thickened up a few things last month that way for me outside of the live videos. Okay, now let me get back to the rest of your questions. Okay. And Joanne, going back to rice again, puts the rice and liquid in the pot and doesn't have to babysit it. If she misses the natural pressure release notice, it doesn't get gummy or overdone. And that is true. And Gina says, does broccoli have that unpleasant smell from childhood? Because my house sure fills up with smells. Yes, it is cruciferous vegetables as a whole. So cabbage, Cheryl can't stand it. She will eat my cabbage, especially my red cabbage with apples, which is really good. It's like sweet and sour cabbage, and you can get that recipe at plantbasedinstantpot.com. Just go up in the search and search cabbage. It's so good. But what happens is, like in her case, her Polish relatives overcooked it. For me, my Southern relatives overcooked it. So sometimes it's a cultural thing to really, like, think of collards. Southern people tend to cook them until they're dark color, and they're delicious that way, but they're also delicious cooked not as long. But yeah, what happens is the cells in there burst. So when we make like cauliflower nacho cheese, and you can get that recipe on plantbasedinstantpot.com too, that's why we cook it for less time. We just cook it until it's just pureeable, and that stops that from happening. And Patricia says she feels that way about immersion blenders. I do like to use immersion blenders for some things, but right now I'm more into using the little mini chopper that my immersion blender attaches to. I think it's super cool. I think this is not so super cool, but I will try and put some of these things. I'll go and find these, and I'll try and go back and put this in the live. So if some of these things you're interested in, you can find them. And Joanne said she didn't really notice broccoli, but cauliflower. And I think the reason broccoli tends to not stink as much is we tend to cook it less time because the florets are so delicate. Cauliflower is not delicate. And you can, on a lower heat in some things, you can cook it for a while, especially if it's in a strong spice, like an Indian spices. I'm thinking of like the potato cauliflower, aloo gobi is a great thing for that. And like, I didn't like cauliflower until I really started eating Indian food, and then I saw its beauty, because by itself it seemed to overpower everything. So that's and so someone, I believe, is talking to the other person saying your pressure button on your Instant Pot should always be up if your pot is under pressure. And so here's the thing. So depending on the model, they go up higher than others. So the one that is even, that comes up and it's here, it's there, if that makes sense. So it's still proportionate. It's just some of them go beyond the lid, some of them go equal to the lid, depending on the model and the make of electric pressure cooker that you have. But yes, you can't open the lid or anything like that if it's up to pressure. But if you're going from one model to another and you're used to seeing it one way, just notice it. Like with the Lux is way, way, way down in there. So what I used to have people do is take it. This isn't hot anymore. So take it so they could see it and see what it would look like when it was fully out. And you can see that. You can see that here. See how it goes there? But this is how it is in its normal relaxed state. This is how it is fully extended. And that's one way just to see yours, especially if you're getting a new model, because the Duo Air Crisp one is different than the regular Duo that I have. And those keep changing. And she loves the spelling of bullion. I think I've misspelled bullion 80 bazillion thousands of times. More times than I would care to ever think about. Oh, and Gina says, when I walk outside after steaming broccoli and walk back in the house, oh my, I can totally see that. So again, if you used my frozen bullion, you might notice a slight orange tinge because I really did add a lot of turmeric in this bullion and promptly forgot about it because usually I like it to make things look a little more chickeny. But again, this is perfectly fine. Do you have any other questions about this? So what we're going to do is after this, at some point today or tonight, I'm going to be posting up that how to break down a celery root because it's not super intuitive. And it's just going to be one of those quick, like 30-second, 40-second videos. And it'll go up on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And if I get it together, I will post it on Facebook too, to at least go watch the YouTube of it, like I did with the dry bullion. So if you follow me, wherever you're watching this, you probably have an opportunity if you scroll up or down to find that. And Melanie said, my timing for the rice water info was perfect. My Instant Pot just beeped, and since I used the ratio of 3 to 2, I manually released it, and it's perfect. Awesome. That is great. And again, it can depend on what kind of rice, like short grain brown rice, sushi rice, long grain, basmati rice. For me, I'm okay with lumping them together, but sometimes they can have a little bit different either cooking times or water ratios to make them exactly what you want it to be for what you're going to use it. Because like I'm thinking too, like short grain brown rice is something I like to use sometimes in the winter, or sometimes I just have it in my pantry and I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with it? But it makes nice sticky rice. So I like to add, if I want it to be sticky, I'm going to add a little bit of extra liquid. And I also not only use my Instant Pot for rice, I use, what is it called? My Vita Clay. So the company sent me a Vita Clay, which is kind of like, they call it a fast slow cooker. So it cooks faster than a slow cooker, but it takes about an hour for rice. And it has this nice clay cooker inside of it. It does make brilliant rice, but I use the same ratios that I use for the Instant Pot. Awesome. Okay, guys. Perhaps the next time you see me, I will have a schedule for what I'm doing, but I'm still me, so it's possible that I won't. But if you have some questions, and if you're watching the replay, again, I'm so glad to have you here, and sorry I couldn't address you by name, but I'm glad you're here. If you have questions, go ahead and tag me on, like you can tag me Kathy Hester, or something like that, to make sure Facebook shows me the comments when I go live in so many places. They don't always. I try to go back and find them all. But eventually I will be wrong. Or you can join my free private Facebook group, Vegan Recipes, Cooking with Kathy Hester. You can ask me stuff there. You can find me on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, the replay, just down below, go ahead and leave me a comment, a question. I don't know, just say whatever you want. Well, don't say whatever you want. Be nice. Let's all be nice. But if you have a question, certainly I want to try and help you. And I will be seeing you guys soon. I'm off to work on my editing skills and my voiceover skills for these like short videos. But if you have something you know that you want to see me do, right? If you're like, I wish I knew how to break down a butternut squash, that could be on its way. Basically anything I have over in my pantry, in my little vegetable counter area, is fair game. And hey, and thank you for coming, Patricia. I appreciate it. All right, lovely ones, have a wonderful day. Be kind to yourself. take a deep breath. It's been a long year and it's only been a month, but, and be kind to yourself. Try to take some time to yourself, and making food for yourself can be a real act of self-care. And it can be just as simple as steaming some stuff in your Instant Pot and making a big pot of soup. And don't forget, you can do your slow cooker and things like that too, okay? And maybe we'll do a slow cooker or something soon. Oh, awesome. And Vanita liked the soup. And Janet says thanks. And I, again, thank you all for being with me and hanging out and having a lovely afternoon. I will see you very, very soon.